Welcome everyone to the Newington Town Council regular meeting of Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Susan's online. Wonderful. If we could move into roll call, please, Susan.
Sure. Counselor Annis,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Budraco,
Here.
Counselor Camillo,
Here.
Counselor Donahue, Counselor Mankey,
Here.
Counselor Nagel,
Here.
Counselor Page,
Here.
Counselor Rada,
Here.
Mayor Del Buono.
Here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item this evening is approval of the agenda. I believe we have one change. Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, if we could add on under item 11, add a B, and that would be to revise approved minutes for May 23rd.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Page. Any discussion?
Second.
Thank you. Counselor Mankey, is your hand up or you?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I was
sorry.
up there to.
I'm just getting logged in now. My computer's a little slow. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is set. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. All right, we'll move now into awards and proclamations. And this evening we have one proclamation. The NRPA, July is National Parks and Recreation Month.
I thought we were removing it.
Kim, is your hand up for something
It
now?
was for 8E, but we're, all right, okay,
Yeah.
all right, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, never mind.
No, you're good.
Emily
I apologize, I'm having some computer issues here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation in for the record. Proclamation, NRPA, July is National Recreation and Parks Month. Whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department was founded in 1956 with the goal to make Newington a better place to live, work, and play. And whereas July is deemed National Recreation and Parks Month by the National Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department touches the lives of every single one of Newington's over 30,000 residents throughout their lifetime through programs, events, grounds maintenance, parks, and so much more. And whereas our mission is to bring business, education, and social services together to provide the best accessible programs, parks, facilities, and services to all people. And whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department has over 1,000 programs to offer to Newington residents each year that garner over 8,000 registrations. And whereas the department brings residents countless events throughout the year and has been awarded the very prestigious Program of Merit Award for their Night of Lights special event by the Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas the Recreation Division accommodates over 80,000 visits annually to the Mortensen Community Center. And whereas the department has forged essential public-private partnerships with numerous organizations and businesses in Newington, Connecticut, and surrounding towns that help to make our events and programming possible. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Newington Town Council recognizes the vital role that Parks and Recreation plays in their local communities and joins with every resident of the great town of Newington to celebrate the outstanding Parks and Recreation Department's accessible programs and facilities. Dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 27th day of June, 2023, signed Beth Del Buono, Mayor, on behalf of the Town Council.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Mankey. And I would open it for discussion, counselors. Deputy Mayor Budraco?
Yes, I'm really glad that National Recreation and Parks Month gives us the opportunity to recognize the importance of parks and recreation in our lives. Particularly because, particularly here in Newington, Parks and Rec Department provides opportunities for residents of all ages and of all abilities to remain active, to be healthy, and to also to be entertained, since that's a big part of some of the programs that our department runs. The Parks and Rec Department really does provide an important way of maintaining the quality of life in Newington and brings residents and visitors together to our town. So I want to thank Bill DeMayo and his staff for the hard work he's done all year, running great programs for our residents, maintaining our green spaces, and also working to enhance and improve our neighborhood parks. So thank you, Bill, and your staff and all the volunteers that help make the department run smoothly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Counselor Menke?
I'd like to add my congratulations to the Parks and Rec Department and all the staff that work so hard to make our parks the envy of the state. Thank you all for your efforts and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Counselor Menke. Counselor Page?
I want to thank Bill DeMayo, your entire staff, all your efforts. You've got so much energy. And you send that out to everyone in the town to get excited about all the programs that we have. And we appreciate you and everyone, all the folks who work year round to make our parks, as others have said, the finest in Connecticut. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Counselor Rada?
Yes, just add my congratulations and my thanks for all the work over the years to you, Bill, to your staff, to the board and commissioners, everyone who puts in time and a tremendous effort to make the Parks and Rec and Newington a wonderful place to live and to play. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Nagel?
I'd like to add my thanks, Bill, to you and your staff appreciate all the hard work you do. And while this proclamation is for a month, given all the programs the Parks and Recreation Department in Newington provides all year round, it's Parks and Rec and Newington Appreciation Day, and thanks every month of the year.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Anist?
Thank you, Bill. I just want to thank you and your staff for everything you do and how much you make the volunteers feel so welcomed when they come to work at all your events. We have a really good time volunteering. So I just want to give a plug for anybody who would like to help out to contact the Parks and Rec Department because it is a really good time. And they have a great staff to work with, but thank you very much.
I would just like to offer my sincere thanks and congratulations, Bill. I know this is something we try to do every year for you. And I look forward to seeing you in the park in a few weeks. I think I'll be reading this again for the crowd, and it's always a good evening to be there. I know there's always some giveaways and a fun time to celebrate everything that you and your folks do. Our community is so very lucky to have all of the programs and events that you are able to put on, and the energy that your programs bring is pretty amazing. Whenever you go to a concert in the park or any of your events, the energy is really wonderful, and it really brings our community together. So thank you very much, Bill. We're going to do a formal vote, and then Bill, if you'd like to say anything, we'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to do that. But let us take our vote first. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. And Bill, it's all yours, Bill.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the kind words, everyone. I feel like the coach, and I've just got a great team, and you can only win games with great teams and great talent. And from Parks, Cemeteries, and Recreation Division and clerical staff and everyone else, they have just been superb. And I've matched the staff up with anybody in the country for the same town, the same size town we have. I do want to say a couple things. We're always promoting new businesses. Jersey Mike's just came into town, and every Thursday night from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, in celebration of July as Recreation and Parks Month, they've agreed to have all the proceeds of sales from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock every Thursday in July and go towards the fireworks fundraiser. So we're hoping that people listening in the audience can go have a grinder at Jersey Mike's on Fenn Road, and we would really appreciate that. It'll make the fireworks spectacular and more and bigger all the time. Also wanted to invite everyone for July 12th through the 15th at the Life Be In It extravaganza. It really promises to have so much entertainment, music, drinks, fun, all kinds of things happening. Look at our schedule because there's so much to be named, but there's like 2 special events every single night in during the day, including also the carnival for the kids, the big carnival rides. And we've got the best bands coming into Newington that we've ever had. So we're really thankful for that. We have a couple new ideas. We've got a close pin drop competition sponsored by Payne Enterprises. And we've got a cupcake kickoff for Wednesday night, in addition to ice cream sundaes on Wednesday, sponsored by the church, United Christ of in the center of town. So anyway, thankful to the council for their support all year long. I'm thankful for the team that we've got all around us and all the volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers. Carol and Diana, Sarah and Carol Annis, they always come to Tony Palomino. All those people come religiously to help us put on a show. And thank you to all the sponsors that have come forward and donated numerous amounts of money. I mean, a ton of money to make things happen. And again, this whole thing is put on by fundraising and not by taxpayers' money. So I want to make sure the public that's watching knows that too. And thank you, Cedar Ridge Construction. They came forward with a giant donation of $10,000 to pay for some of the costs for the fireworks. So we're pleased about that. So with that, I thank everyone from the council, the mayor. Hope to see all of you at our events, and see you at the Life Be In It extravaganza or at Jersey Mike's on Thursdays. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right, folks, we'll continue on with our agenda. Next is presentations, and we have an update by our town grant writer, the Sonic Group, and I believe Sonia's on with us.
Yes, hi, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to give the council a quick update, and is someone going to be able to scroll through my application, my presentation for me online here?
All set.
Okay. Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with Sonic Group, we have been working with the town for a couple of years on helping to research, write grants, and do post-grants administration. Each year we sit down and we talk to the town, which is coming up soon. I had a brief conversation with James earlier this month to set up some time in July to talk with those interested in pursuing some grants, and we'll do an assessment and see which ones we are going to work on during the year. So this past year, in total, we put together 12 applications, 7 were awarded, 3 rejected, and we have 2 pending. We have, the next slide is, if we go to the next slide. This is the one that identifies or summarizes where we've had some successes, a couple rejections, which we're working on resubmitting where we've not been successful. As you can see, we did a planning grant that we didn't get the first time, but we did get it the second time. And the first time was a matter of the state having not enough funding, but when there was more funding, we were successful in getting something. We're also waiting for a couple FEMA AFG grant. We're hoping to finally break through that. We did get a grant for the fire under FEMA for the fire department for the SAFER grant. We've got Star Technology coming in. So we had a pretty good year. I'd like to do a little bit more this year, and we'll have further discussion. We have another one that we're pending working on for library construction grant. And I don't have an in progress column, so that's why that's in the amount column, but we're working on that right now. So every year on the assessment, as I mentioned, we're going to go through and the things that have been requested pretty often as public safety equipment. We do have a drone donation request out there. Radios, we have a request out there, working with the library on the public space enhancements. And we're always looking for additional, you could tell that from the presentation just previous to this one, and the park and recreation is a really linchpin of the town, and we're always looking for grants around those amenities that we have. So we'll be, again, just to repeat, we'll be meeting with the town manager and other town officials to see what the priorities are, if they've changed, and continue to work on grants. So some of the initial planning that we have, that we want to continue, we've understood from the town, is looking for some more funds to piggyback on the initial funds for the historical loop and some historical assets, to go through trails construction grant based off the planning grant. Again, some more humanities kind of grants that are going to be available this fall. And I'm going to hope that we are successful with the assistance to firefighter grant, and continue to get funding to leverage our assets in our town. And then we also have to explore some state and federal bipartisan infrastructure legislation opportunities that are bigger scale, and what might be considered a multi-town application in the future. So that is our update.
Glad you said bipartisan infrastructure. I was like, what is BIL? Thank you.
I know there's other from the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation. Those are the ones I think the town or a multi-town consortium would have a pretty good chance of getting. But I think the best strategy is to do a regional application versus in a state like Connecticut that is basically the size of a city in other states like Dallas and California. But we do have, in aggregate, in a regional sense, significant needs. When you put it together, would make a compelling request to, these are competitive requests to the federal government.
Okay, great. Counselors, do you have any questions or comments? Counselor Menke, I've got you next.
Yeah, if you can just tell me, in general, is there more grant money than in the past, or is it the same, or is it drying up?
This is a tsunami of grant funding. This administration is very interested in infrastructure and shoring up all the, basically, if you write on it, use it, electricity, or do anything infrastructure wise, there's funding for it. The trick in getting it is competitive. They don't have an unlimited checkbook, but when you look at the big broad numbers, it seems like a lot until you start parsing it down to exactly what it's for. But there is a significant amount, and I don't see, I'm watching the budget as they go through their gymnastics at the federal level. There's going to be increases about every infrastructure area and these are carryovers too. So the only thing I see them panicking about now is any money that was COVID-related money, is they're looking to claw that back unless towns and cities spend it. So there isn't a shortage, but they want to see action. So if there's any funding around, they want to see the applications in, and we should use our legislators to help advocate for those things for us as well.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Badrego?
Yeah, I just want to say, Sonia, looking at our return on investment is 670%. That's quite an amazing number. Cost us $55,000 and we got $370,000 worth of awards. So thank you for all your efforts. I also have just a question. I know I was looking through some grant opportunities, and I know there's an awful lot of emphasis on alternative transportation modes. And I would hope that, and I know you're aware of the fact that many people in Newington have come out in support of some kind of biking trails, because we have so much traffic now, and there really is no safe way of getting to one of the state's premier projects, which was supposed to be the trail along the busway, and then hopefully we'll get some funding to go further towards Trout Brook. So I hope that maybe we can look into some kind of support for the biking as well. But again, thank you for your efforts.
Yes, if I can comment on that is one of the planning grants that we received, is to take a look at alternative trails in and around and adjacent to leverage that particular area, as it also funnels into the historical loop that is an area of interest as a historical site. So it's kind of building on all the resources together. So we're kind of accumulating grants that will support a holistic view of transportation to assets in the town.
Thanks.
Okay, Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you also for all of your hard work. This is amazing what you've done. And speaking of the historic loop, thank you for what you've done there with the $10,000. And I know in a recent meeting, we had a passing conversation about at least my concern, and I think others, regarding a specific beautiful old historic home on West Hill, which is in the possession of a company outside of town, maybe in Farmington. And we may or may not have any opportunity to work with those folks or with our state legislators or with you, but I'd like to explore that and see, given all of our collective interest in enhancing the historic area there, would that be, I just hate to see that if you drive by that beautiful old home, no one's living there, it's increasingly in disrepair, and it seems like a lost opportunity if we don't explore it to strengthen that beautiful area and do something with that property. So I'd like us to think about that. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you through the town manager to collaborate on that, you know?
Actually, that was something I was going to be reaching out to Sonia regarding, which is specifically is our historic homes, the Kelsey House, the Kellighetti House, Deming Young Farm, the barn at that site as well, specifically because there is funding that is available out there. And if we are looking to preserve, we need to make sure that we're leveraging all of the money that are out there.
Thanks, because they're treasures, and I know it costs money and our resources are limited, and I get that, but we've got to get creative if we truly, and I think we do, value those treasures. Yeah, so thanks.
If I can just comment on that as well, that we did an initial analysis, and we do have the report from the consultant who did the analysis of all the historic properties, at least within the historic loop, which includes that home on West Hill. And they are of significant historic value, and they do tell a nice story of progression from the beginning of time, the town's founding up through more recent times. So there's quite a good story there, and we're going to, as I understand, reconvene the Historical Planning Committee, and work on the next step of the application, which would be putting in some historic signage and to increase public awareness about the value of those homes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? Sonia, just like to say thank you to you. I know a couple of years ago you came on board and we didn't know what it was going to look like or how it was going to pan out, but when you look at what you've been able to accomplish for us over the last couple of years, it's pretty amazing. And I know we had staff that were doing some grants for us and whatnot along the way, but it was little bits here and there, and you've really done an amazing job for us. So thank you. And to hear all your plans moving forward too is it's great to hear. So we really look forward to continuing our relationship with you and your company. Thank you.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. We hope to continue to have positive results for the town. And the town, by the way, I just want to mention that everybody I worked with on any of these programs has been more than helpful. And so everybody's been totally bought in, and no one's ever said no to working with me on any of these grants. So I appreciate all the cooperation as well. They should be recognized.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. All right. We're all set. Thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Thank you.
You too. All right, continuing on with our agenda. Next item this evening is public participation. Any member of the public that's in the room may come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record if you would. We do have a 3-minute time limit, which you'll see on the screen. There's a little bar to help out with that. Anyone online can certainly raise your hand in the participants window to let us know that you'd like to be recognized, and we'll move forward with that as well. Welcome.
Evening, Claire Fravel, 188 Rocket Street. Thank you for this opportunity to comment. I am speaking tonight about item 8E on the agenda, TPZ referral of sale of town land, 21 Timothy Street. I also sent a follow-up email on Friday to the town council regarding this item. Some of you responded, so thank you. I'm asking that the referral to planning and zoning be postponed until the town has evidenced documented ownership of the parcel. At the June 13th meeting, it was noted that a basic title search was conducted and that James Street Extension was accepted as a street. We decided to hire a title search professional, and it was conducted, and the result is that the documentation does not evidence town ownership. So the policy on proposed disposition of undeveloped town land is not applicable. I am asking for the documentation the town has that evidences ownership, and until the matter of ownership of the parcel is sorted out, it is not appropriate to refer to town planning and zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vrabel. Members of the public that would like to come forward? There's no one online currently. And no one coming forward, so we'll continue on. Next item is, there was no email correspondence, correct?
Just that one letter that she
Okay.
referenced, so just that's it.
Okay. Remarks by counselors on public participation. I will just mention that I reached out via email to you, but it was right before we were coming in. It was probably about 6:30 tonight. So that you know that we are likely to entertain a motion to table the item this evening. And we did receive your email, and we are looking further into it, but we'll talk about that when we get to that agenda item. I just don't know if you are planning on staying or not, so I figured I'd mention it to you now, but you know, we'll get to that as we get through our agenda. Thank you for bringing your concerns. Any other counselors? Okay. We'll continue on to consideration of old business, and the first one this evening is departmental transfers and surplus funds for pension funds. As you know, we reviewed this at our last meeting. Ms. Murphy was on with us. I know she's available if we need her tonight. We can have her answer questions if there are any, but I know we discussed this last time. Does anyone have any questions they need answered before we move forward with the resolution? All right, if not, who would like to go ahead and read that in for us? Nagel?
Certification. In accordance with section 808 of the town charter, I hereby certify that there exists free from encumbrances in the following appropriations in general fund, the amounts listed below. Account number 960, title contingency, amount $34,500. Janet Murphy, Director of Finance.
It's
Resolved.
correct, that's a 43 day.
43, did I say? I'm sorry, $43,500. Janet Murphy, Director of Finance. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby transfers the above certified funds to the following accounts in the general fund. Account number 160, title, town attorney, amount $15,400. Account number 320, highway, $28,100. Be it further resolved that the town manager is authorized to make additional transfers from unencumbered balance of appropriations within the general fund to the administrative, municipal, and police pension trust funds in the amount not to exceed $300,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Menke. Any discussion, counselors?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question, just for clarification. I'm not objecting. Just for clarification, that amount to the municipal and police pension trust fund not to exceed 300,000. Does that mean we've designated a specific dollar amount, or it's what is, just to clarify?
So based upon funding that's left over at the end of the year, up to $300,000 is proposed to go into it. Maybe less than that, but we wanted to have a threshold.
Okay. And that's because we're continuing to work to increase that balance.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
okay. I
We
just
want
want
to know the full balance to actually close the books for the
Gotcha.
Friday, right? Friday.
Thanks. I just wanted clarification.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next up is the suspense list, the annual suspense list. This is an action we take each and every year. And you'll see the revenue collector needs to provide the municipality's governing body a statement that includes the amount of each uncollectible personal property, the amount of each uncollectible balance of each real estate tax after crediting such tax with proceeds obtained from a tax sale or lien sale of the real estate, and which balance cannot be collected by any other means, the name and address of the person against whom the tax was levied, and the reason why the revenue collector believes each tax is uncollectible. Upon receipt of that list, the council may act to designate the taxes as uncollectible and transferred from the revenue collector to the suspense tax book. Such action, I think this is underlined for a reason because we always get this question. Such action in no way constitutes an abatement of any tax so transferred, but as with any such tax, remains subject to interest, penalties, fees, and charges, and still may be collected by the revenue collector if they find a way to do so. So you'll see in the memo, there's a list of the amounts. And we're looking, this year's suspense list totals $137,478.50.
No,
Oh, no, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry, that's at the top of the list there.
163.
164, I'm sorry, I read the amount above, 164, 295.63.
Different numbers.
No, where?
852.31.
Oh, I'm looking on the memo, I'm sorry. You see the memo is a different amount than James, I need clarification on that.
Yeah, and this came from
The amount in the
Corinne.
memo says 164, 295.63, but the resolution says 163, 862.31.
Check why that's looking that way.
There are different numbers, yeah.
15.
I know Janeth logged in, but I know she said she might be away from the computer if we wanted to text her to bring her
Here.
back.
She's online. If she wants to, she can unmute herself. I'm just pulling up Corinne's third revision to her list. I think I grabbed the original one from the original meeting and I didn't pull her third revision, so give me a moment. Which is always good when you work on it from home. And you are right. Where are you? There. All right. So that was revision number 3 for a total amount of $163,862.31.
The resolution's right.
So
that's,
it
the
was
motion is correct.
So the motion is correct versus the memo that was supplied originally?
So the memo just wasn't updated.
I didn't pull that. Yeah, I pulled it from the last packet. I forgot to replace it when I put it into the slideshow. So the correct dollar amount is in the resolution
So
itself.
James is human. I didn't.
Never believe
Never believed.
All right, thank you.
Yes, so that one is correct in the resolution as well as the removal of the 2007.
Okay. So who would like to go ahead and read that resolution in for us? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes a transfer in the amount of $163,862.31 to the suspense tax book for the list year 2021-2022. This action is being taken upon the recommendation of Corinne Aldinger, Revenue Collector, as shown on a revised report dated June 12, 2023.
Second by Counselor Annis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Counselor Donahue and Counselor Camillo absent?
I'll do the second.
Yes, if you would.
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes the outstanding balance from the 2007 grand list in the amount of $9,045.86 be removed from the town's receivable assets as of June 30th, 2023, as per the recommendation of Corinne Aldinger, Revenue Collector, as shown on a report dated June 12th, 2023.
Second.
Second by Counselor Nagel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Who just said aye online?
Mike.
Oh, Mike logged in online, okay. All right. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Continuing on, the next item is Departmental fees update, chapter 225 cemetery, and you'll remember we discussed this at our last meeting as well. That Bill DeMayo, who is considered our cemetery sexton, has requested a 2% increase in the costs for the cemetery services. Funds received for the cemetery services are deposited into the perpetual fund for future maintenance costs. And they had provided us, you'll see the memo with the breakdown of how those costs break down for each of the different levels of service for the cemetery. Who would like to read this motion in? Counselor Nagel?
If it goes to move, just make sure that you determine whether or not, as part of the memorandum indicating the fees, if you will accept a 2% increase per year, or if you want that to come back. If you want to include the 2%, add that into the resolution. If you're choosing not to, and you wish to have that brought back by the department each year, it would just leave it as it's shown.
I think we had
Yeah, we
decided
discussed
that.
that last week. Yeah.
Because we may want to add more, we may not want to add. more.
Right.
Right, that
Want to
was our
make sure
discussion
that
last
we
time.
have that clear and it's on the record.
Yep, thank you, yeah. So the council's consensus last time was to make sure that we do this annually.
Okay.
And so the resolution that's in the packet does not indicate that it will be in perpetuity, that it's just for this time around.
Correct. So we will strike the last line from the schedule itself when it's attached to the resolution.
Yep, thank you. All right,
So the resolution is fine
the
as
resolution
written
is
here.
correct as written, yes.
Okay, just wanted to make certain before I read it.
Thank you.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby approves the West Meadows Cemetery proposed fees effective July 1, 2023, as proposed by Bill DeMayo, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, in his role of cemetery sexton, a copy of which is attached to this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Camillo, who's back in the room. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next item is placement of coverage, property casualty liability insurance and workers' compensation. And James, I'm going to let you take this one.
We did go out earlier this year. I know Councilor Mankey can speak to that, to see where we were at in our insurance. We did have two bids that came in, one from Travelers and one from Kerma, who is our current insurance agent. We did determine Kerman was our best bet. This would lock in our rate from July of this year through June 30, 2026. That will just allow us to execute the letter of commitment, which is attached in your packet, and make sure we have our coverage in place as of July 1st.
Okay.
You will see there are caps on the policies for the next 3 years. So 0% over the 2022-3, up to 5% over 3 and 4, and up to 5% over 4 and 5.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it will go that high, but it has the possibility of that.
Right. Counselor Camillo, your hand is up. Did you? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Mankey, do you want to read this in for us?
Sure. Resolved in accordance with section 8-27-4A of the Code of Ordinance, the Newington Town Council hereby accepts the recommendations of the Standing Insurance Committee and directs USI Insurance Services of Meriden as the town's agent of record to place workers' compensation, general liability, automotive liability, professional liability, and umbrella coverage with the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency, KERMA, effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026, and hereby authorizes James Perpinski, acting town manager, to sign the associated 3-year rate lock agreement. A copy of the executed letter of commitment shall be attached to this resolution.
Second.
Second by Counselor Rada. Any further discussion, counselors?
Thanks for your work on it.
Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, we just point out, we are looking, as I said at our last meeting, we are looking at additional coverages, and the committee will meet
Monday. the
Monday,
10th.
July
The
10th. I just got it.
The 10th at 5.
So we're looking at additional coverage. So we may be coming back to you for some additional coverages, but it doesn't seem to be a whole, I mean, everything's money. But it doesn't seem to be astronomical, the cost, and so we'll come back after we review it. but just be prepared for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next item this evening is the TPZ referral of sale of town land at 21 Timothy Street. I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Kropinski.
All right, so I was informed of the email that was sent through over the weekend. Actually, the title searcher, I'm fully familiar with her. She actually assisted in the transfer of the property to Mr. Calais along Fen Road. We do have two specific pieces that are still in question to this now that we're looking at it, and it has to do with the time period in which it took place. It's not to say that it didn't happen back then, but what tended to be the course of action was the selectmen and the planning commission, at least from 1924 forward, would simply approve a subdivision or a street layout, and that would be it. At some specific instances, we would see a deed for that, and the town attorney has recommended we always receive one, just it never happened all the time. And actually, it was ironic because I was actually downstairs looking for additional information on that today, and actually I found, and I'm not sure if it's a deed transfer or not, and I will be looking into it for the J. Wilbur property here, which is Home Gardens, which is a nightmare of paper streets in that area as well. So that is something we are still looking into. But at this point, based upon some information that I gathered from the assessor and from the zoning enforcement officer who's been here a little bit longer, in 2009, as part of a public safety action, the town went through and flagged a lot of the paper roads as town parcels. And if they found a reference to some sort of an acceptance, they referenced it. So the existing, what we now call 21 Timothy, actually has a reference onto it to the volume 3 of the selectmen minutes from 1952, accepting the roadways up to Timothy Street. That's the vague part of it, because it's literally on the other side of Timothy Street now. So we're trying to find out if there's other information on that. It may be the fact that the parcel itself and the information that we received from the attorney for the purchaser of the property didn't realize that it didn't go all the way through the entire strip when they put in their request for it, indicating that it was our parcel. When I looked through it generally, yeah, the street looked logical to it, but looking further into it, it does appear that it may not even be town-owned property. It may still be under possibly the estate or successors of the Longs from 1925.
Oh, boy.
So we are looking back through that. We're going to see if we can find any additional plans that went along with that, and we're going to see if we can find any associated ownership that goes along with it. We have had luck in previous times with J. Wilbur. We found a heir in Rhode Island who was able to actually sign off on a parcel at that point. So it may end up being that this doesn't end up being a sale of town-owned parcel. It may end up being a private sale if we're able to locate the owner of the property. So it's become a very interesting piece, but my recommendation would be at this point to table it until we have a much more clear picture on it at this point.
Okay. Counselor Camillo?
Was there taxes paid on this property all these years?
No.
Okay.
No.
So when you do find the owner, it'll basically be a
Yeah, we
wash.
can't go back that far, unfortunately,
Right.
under statute.
No, I know
but-
you can't. I'm not talking about that part of it.
Property
But-
taxes, you know, taxes on it.
So is it, on our tax list anywhere?
Well, we have it listed, but it's listed under the town of Newington.
Okay.
As a roadway stub, a paper road, so
Okay.
to speak. And on the assessor card, it actually calls itself out as James Street stub. That's what we've always recommended it as.
Mm-hmm.
It was meant to connect, we believe, down to the lower part of Brockett,
Right.
but whatever happened in the subdivision that's to the west of it, it just never connected that way. And that subdivision was separate from the Longs, so at some point they just chose to sell off their lot pieces to everybody, and it never happened. So, it's a very interesting time period.
Counselor Manke?
So I would move we table this until such time as we get further information.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Evening is update to the classification and pay plan. Mr. Kropinski?
Simple one, what we try to do each year based upon proposed increases to our pay schedule. We updated our pay schedule effective as to July 1st. It actually is included as part of our budgetary process now, saving you guys the additional motion of having to transfer funds. So this one is a 2% increase over last year's adopted pay group rates, and simply approving that and to be able to move forward as of July 1st. Any contracts that are coming up are separate from that, which as of January, we'll be starting negotiations for the ASME contract. The police contract is already in place. And we do have the upcoming negotiations on the Board of Ed side as well.
Counselor Camillo?
On the back of page 2, A-11.
Yes.
You've got Deputy Chief of Police there. I believe that position will be gone, right, in 6 months?
We actually are discussing that with the Chief of Police based upon his proposed retirement eventually, and as looking into having somebody in there as a transitionary phase, sort of what we did with the Assistant Town Manager.
Right, because when they originally came to us, they said it was a 6 months, and that was it.
Correct.
And now it's been 3 times.
Yes. He is fully aware that the extension that he has currently will be expiring. The chief's aware of that as well, so he won't be continuing after that point. Yep.
Any other questions?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes James Kropinski, acting town manager, to update and modify the administrative group pay ranges within the town classification and pay plan effective July 1, 2023, and adopted as of June 27, 2023, a copy of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Second by Counselor Rada. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. We are moving now into resignations and appointments. We have before us this evening a resignation of Kevin Ziegler from the NEMS committee. Counselor Menke?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby accepts the resignation of Kevin Ziegler from Newington Emergency Medical Services Committee, NEMS, in accordance with a resignation letter received on June 19th, 2023, and effective on that date.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 8-0, sorry, Counselor Donahue absent. Did I miss something?
You're
Okay.
good. No, I was just clearing throat, sorry.
Okay. Next item we have this evening are appointments for several commissions. Counselor Menke?
Resolved, Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Development Commission, Paul Lenz, member, 25 Longview Drive, Party R, 6/27/2023 to 11/30/2025, replaces a vacancy. EMS Committee, Diana Sierra, member, 237 Reservoir Road, Party R, 6/27/2023 to 12/31/2023, vacancy, resignation of Kay Ziegler. Board of Ethics, Anthony Mealy, member, 124 Apple Hill, Party R, term 6/23/2023 to 11/30/2024, replaces resignation of G. Donahue. Kelly DeHaas, alternate, 45 Lincoln Road, Party R, 6/27/2023 to 11/30/2024, replace a vacancy, resignation of Jay Mortensen.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next item this evening is refunds for June 27th, 2023. Deputy Mayor Badreko.
Resolve that property tax refunds in the amount of $3,081.69 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the request for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next item this evening is approval of minutes, and we have, the first one is for June 13th, 2023.
I move acceptance.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion on the minutes for June 13th? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. Next, we had added to amend the already approved minutes of May 23rd, 2023. The recommended change or amendment to those is that, sorry, I wrote it down over here. On page 3 of the minutes, under those that accepted the proclamation for the Newington Youth Theater, it's listed as Christy Francesco, and it should have been Chris DeFrancesco. So Chris is the first name, last name, DeFrancesco. Actually, I'm not sure if it's SC. We'd have to look at that.
Yeah, we can confirm.
Yeah, I would confirm. But that's the only change that was brought forward. So I'll entertain a motion to amend those minutes as mentioned.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Menke. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any further discussion on amending the minutes of May 23rd? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Donahue absent. We are now moving into the new business section of our agenda, and the first item this evening is the ARPA funds request emergency management. Mr. Kapinski?
So we received a request from DJ Zordan. He's our emergency management director regarding the utilization of some ARPA funds. Some of them were based upon changes we made during the budget process, and some are additional ones that were part of a review by the former emergency management director prior to her leaving. But Mr. Zordan is on the meeting. I can see him anyway. I think his camera's there, so let me see if I can turn that on. And if he hits his mic, he can present his information.
Welcome,
Hi
DJ.
there. Thank you. So there was a preliminary list that was presented back under Town Manager Keith Chapman. And it was presented to the Director of Finance, and it kind of just sat there. So over the last couple of months, we went through what really is needed by the town. So what we're proposing is really two vehicles. The first two vehicles that you see, one is a box truck. Currently, the town doesn't have any box trucks. The Board of Education does, but the problem that we have run into for a few times is that we're not self-sustaining. So we have to wait for or arrange the use of that truck. And it's time to move shelter supplies, which is the primary use that this box truck would be used for. Having to get a hold of somebody from Board of Ed, have them come in, have them open their garage, have them, hopefully the trucks are there and ready to go, not being used for something else. It really does take some time. There was a potential issue that we had where the town of Rocky Hill called us because they were planning to open up a shelter and they were in need of supplies. And that's what we had to go through. We had to figure out how are we going to do this and how are we going to move these supplies. The only other way that we could really do it is dependent on another department. So the highway department obviously has equipment to move some of these supplies. So does Parks and Grounds. In an emergency, however, those departments are going to be tied up. So the box truck would be the first primary addition that we would need to start moving supplies around. And obviously it would be available for use. I know Human Services also, borrows the Board of Ed's equipment for their purposes. Same thing, our facilities department, our highway department, anybody that would need it would obviously be able to use it as long as there was no sort of emergency on the horizon. The second vehicle that is proposed is just a pickup truck. The biggest advantage or the biggest request we have is the lift gates. A lot of the equipment that we are moving is heavy. And when push comes to shove, trying to lift some of this stuff up and get it onto a vehicle, we need the lift gate. So this particular vehicle would be a support vehicle. There's discussions right now with the fire chief. He's asked that CERT take more active role, especially in traffic management. So this vehicle would be set up, really to provide support to any incident, but especially we would load it up with some cones and road barriers. So in the event that we needed to help them block off roads, it would be ready to go. The third vehicle was a request from our director of finance. This is for the replacement, if you will, or in addition to the fire marshal's office. We went through and applied for this for inclusion in the capital plan. And the director of finance asked that we remove that and use ARPA money to pay for that. Currently, the fire marshal's office only has one vehicle on the vehicle replacement plan. So adding this into would bring us to our needed vehicle count and make it easier to plan for replacements in the future. And it's going to be now compounded with also emergency management. As of July 1st, you guys with the budget have approved some part-time monies for emergency management. So it would be adding, essentially a part-time person. So having that vehicle is definitely a need. And then the last proposal is installation of electrical equipment at the middle schools. At least one, but we're hoping to do two. What this would do is allow us to bring in a generator in the event that we had to open multiple shelters. Currently, the only Board of Ed building that has a generator is the high school. So our shelters are the senior center, the high school, the town hall unofficially in the gym. So what we would be looking for is to add transfer switches to both John Wallace and Martin Kellogg, which in the event they were needed, we would bring in a portable generator, which would most likely be rented, and we would be able to supply the needed areas, the community areas, I would call them, the kitchens, the cafeterias, and the gym. And again, this is more of a preparation for a long-term issue. The reason John Wallace was selected is because they have a loading dock. So in the event that we needed to get a shipment from either FEMA or from the state, they could bring a tractor trailer in, back up to the loading dock. We could unload it and disperse from there. But obviously power would be necessary to do that.
DJ, is the $5,000 able to do both middle schools, or is that just for the one?
The initial prices that were proposed previously were $1,000, which I think is low. So the $5,000 is to do both, but basically we're asking to spend up to, and if we can't do both, we're going to do John Wallace. And obviously that's with cooperation with the schools, because this is going to install the equipment on the outside. There might be some work that needs to be done on the actual electrical infrastructure. An engineer would be needed to look at that and see exactly how much would be needed to be upgraded.
And are the schools on board with this plan, or it hasn't been run by them yet?
We had a brief conversation, and Jason Plum thought that there would be interest in this, but we do have to have an official conversation with Dr. Brummett and I believe Lou Giacomowitz as well.
Okay. Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mary. These vehicles, I think this was brought up at one point, but what would they be used for when, let's hope we never have to have an emergency, but how would these be used when we're not in an emergency? And would they, at the town manager's discretion or other leadership, be utilized in other needed capacities in the town? So they're not just sitting there in a parking lot.
For sure, they definitely be available. The pickup truck style that you see would be used pretty often. Again, my understanding is the fire department, I'll start over. When I took over, I spoke with each of the chiefs from public safety, and one of the things that the fire chief brought up was the need to have traffic support. And for reasons which I believe the increased cost of physicals and keeping personnel at the firefighter level, the chief said it might be more beneficial to have some of his veteran members that still want to volunteer but can't be firefighters join CERT, and CERT would support, traffic management as needed. So that vehicle would be used pretty frequently, it sounds like. The box truck would probably be used a little bit more infrequently, but like I said, it would definitely be available to any town department. Human Service has already expressed an interest. They use it for their food drives. They use it for their Christmas, family dispersion, things like that. Facilities, highway, like I said, as long as there's no, emergencies or major storms coming our way, then yeah, it's definitely available for any town agency to use.
Thank you.
Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, just, I guess a couple questions. The box truck, knowing how town government works, who has control of the box truck? I mean, it seems like, would it be the emergency management or the town manager could disperse it where he needs it, where it's needed, or request would be made for it?
Certainly. The ultimate plan is that the box truck, both of these vehicles are going to be in the EOC. There would be some sort of vehicle storage once the new EOC is built. But yeah, definitely through emergency management director or town manager, if somebody needed it, they could definitely request it.
Okay, and the emergency support vehicle, I believe we already have Howard already has a truck that's set up with cones and the things that are used to block off roads. I'm not sure I would want to duplicate efforts. If there was a need for that truck, I'm sure that a call to Howie would get that. Probably get that truck with the cone that already has the cones on it to block off the roads quicker than it would take to get a CERT team mobilized and then get the truck and then block off the roads.
Yeah, we had a discussion with the town manager to think logistically, like what would any issues be. The CERT team would be activated more so to alleviate fire department, police department units at a long-term incident where we would be freeing up police units. And we do have a traffic, I don't know his official title, but we do have a traffic maintainer. So logistically, we would have to see if he would be brought in before the CERT team be activated or how that works. But again, this isn't solely traffic. It would be part of it, but this would be used to move smaller equipment, to move coolers, refreshments, food, things like that. So again, if the traffic, support team, if you will, or support function isn't feasible, it would still be used to support the emergency services for long-term incidents. It would be a way for the CERT team to move whatever equipment or shelters or things like that out to those scenes.
So the CERT team, who then would be qualified to drive this vehicle?
There would be a training program implemented, so anybody that wanted to drive it would go through that training course.
It seems to me, I guess I could vaguely see the need for it, but it's $65,000 for a vehicle that we have to then maintain and replace over time, because I'm not sure there's a need for it, but I'll reserve. The other question on the other vehicle, the fire marshal management, you said you already have 3 vehicles?
That's correct.
And you want to get another one, so you'd have 4.
Correct.
And again, what would the 4th vehicle be used for?
So right now, we do have the benefit that two of our fire marshals also operate fire department. They operate in the fire department chief capacity. So they have fire department vehicles that they use while they work for my office. But we're also in the next budget year implementing a 20-hour fire marshal and 15-hour emergency management position that was approved. So it would basically be another person working in the office on a full-time basis. So the need for the vehicle would be, we're adding staff to accomplish multiple functions and multiple responsibilities. So this would be kind of a shared vehicle between
So
emergency management.
Out of the 3 vehicles you currently have, 2 are also fire department vehicles?
Well, the 3 vehicles that we have, I guess, are all under the fire department vehicle plan, if you will, which is part of the town plan.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. Okay, and then so you want to add a 4th one with anticipation of hiring somebody new starting in July?
Correct.
Counselor Camillo?
The truck with the lift gate on it. You've got 1/2 ton there. So 1 ton.
The picture was just to demonstrate the lift gate.
Right, but you can't put a lift gate on there. And you're gonna have a utility body on it too?
That was the thought.
Yeah, you
obviously
need a bigger truck than a 1/2 ton.
Okay, obviously we'll be working with highway to do this.
Yeah.
So this was just the picture was really to demonstrate the lift gate
Okay.
and the need for it.
Right, but it wouldn't be a 1/2 ton. So.
So you,
Right, that's a great price if you can get it for that, but it's,
What are you saying, Council Camillo? Because I wouldn't know this, that in order to do a lift gate.
well, I have the same exact truck outside I drive every day, and it's a 1 ton.
And that's the minimum requirement for this type of lift gate.
Lift gate on it. So when you do that and you spec it out, the price is right. You can get that for probably under $65,000 unless you're gonna equip it like the fire department does. So, but your highway will do the lights and all that for you and what you need. I think it's a great idea, especially a crew cab. And if you're gonna have CERT in there also, so you can move manpower around. So.
Counselor Rada?
Yeah, I have a question. The emergency management support vehicle and the fire marshal / emergency management SUV. Just reading, and I know these are very brief descriptions, seem to have some overlapping purposes. And I'm wondering if both of those vehicles are necessary, or is there a vehicle that could be utilized in that fuller capacity?
We could certainly look into it. Like I said, these 2 vehicles, along with a bunch of others, were originally proposed. So we cut the list back to just these 2. But really, the fire marshal's vehicle for that was a request of the finance director. But she said to put it in this request just to make it a little bit more simple. Like I said, she had requested it be removed from the capital plan and purchased through ARPA funds. So yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at designing something, but with an SUV, you lose some of the capabilities of moving larger equipment around than a pickup truck. So that's why we were requesting the 2 different vehicles.
Yeah, that was my question, was not necessarily to focus on the Tahoe, but more utilizing the crew cab, something that has maybe even a larger capacity that could serve, it's just a question, that could serve both purposes, which would include, emergency management, the CERT support, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we can, I mean, we can certainly look at anything, and retool if we need to.
Deputy Mayor Badrego?
Yes, you indicated that these vehicles would be stored in the Emergency Operations Center, which quite frankly is a long way off. I mean, we don't have one now, and who knows when we're gonna build one. So I think, planning on that is a little premature. So in the interim, storage of these vehicles, I know departments keep coming to us and saying, oh, well, we need to build a garage because of this, or we need to house this because we don't want it out in the elements, blah, blah, blah. Where are you planning on storing these vehicles?
That's a good question.
At this point, we don't necessarily have a place in mind. The box truck would most likely be housed at the highway department, I'm hoping. And I know that they're tight on space. But there isn't a specific spot that we have right now that's equipped.
Because I guess I would hate to have, this purchased and then, in 6 months, people coming to us saying, well, we have to build a garage because we have these vehicles. So I mean, I think that needs to be thought about. And then secondly, regarding the installation of the electrical transfers at the middle schools, I mean, I do think that's a good idea, but my concern is, the plan is, to have the power infrastructure in place in the event sheltering is needed due to a long-term natural disaster or major incident. If there's a major incident or a natural disaster, I don't think portable generators are going to be really readily available for renting. I'm just wondering why there wasn't consideration to buying our own generator, because if there's a disaster, you're not going to get one. Everybody's going to be looking to rent.
Yeah, there was consideration. I spoke to Rob Hillman at Highway. No, these generators are not like, the generator that you would buy to power your house. This is a trailer that's brought in. And nobody else, there's really no need, no other town agencies have a need for that much power. So locally, we do have HO Penn. I haven't reached out to them, but what I've been told is that there was an agreement in place that they would reserve a generator for the town of Newington if we needed it, for a pending, storm or natural disaster that we were preparing for. So that's our first, line of defense, if you will, to reach out to them and have that brought in. And again, we would be able to go over, pick it up and basically drive it over to the school where, when we needed it. But we did look into buying one, but the expense wouldn't really be, it wouldn't add any value because it would be used very infrequently. It was better just to have the infrastructure in place in case we needed it.
Thank you.
Counselor Camillo?
We just passed this amount of money through our budget, correct? I'm asking.
Say it again.
When we passed our budget, this purchase was already in that.
No,
It was not.
Money, no?
no,
We
These
didn't
weren't
approve any of that?
none of this. This was, no,
Okay.
these are all new requests. Yep.
It was after the fact. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. DJ, just a couple of thoughts. As I'm reading this, I guess from my perspective and looking at it, the box truck, I like that it would be used by more than one department, that it could be used for a multitude of purposes, and that we are currently relying on another agency for that use. So I do kind of like that idea of having our own on the town side. My concerns though around really all of it is that, one, the storage piece, I had written that down as well. We're not ready for the EOC yet, so I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit with purchasing vehicles at this point. So I'm just trying to process that a little bit. And then in terms of our bigger picture as a town, not necessarily related to you and your department, but as a town, we've been talking as a council about our vehicle footprint in general, and that we have really expanded that over the years without meaning to. And that we needed to try and kind of bring that down a bit. There's a lot of vehicles out there that aren't even in the replacement program, but then people are looking for replacements. And how can we do that? So I guess I'm trying to understand in terms of, I know the fire marshal vehicle would have to be put into a replacement plan, but in terms of the other two, the box truck and the support vehicle, if we purchase those with ARPA funds, are we looking to have those in the vehicle replacement plan and then have to worry about those in however many years down the road as well?
I guess my answer to that would be, ultimately a vehicle would have to be replaced, but I don't think, again, based on the use that these would be getting, if the typical replacement is 7 years, I certainly think we could get easily 10 to 15 years out of these vehicles. Again, I can't foresee the future, but it's not something that I think that anybody's going to come back and say, hey, we need 3 more vehicles or more of this or more of that. I think that these vehicles are going to serve the purpose and get us to where we need to be for the next probably 15, 20 years.
Okay. I think that was all I had for questions. Okay. Deputy Mayor Federico?
Yeah, I just, gosh, I see the need, and when an emergency hits, but given the fact that hopefully the use is so limited, have you explored at all? I don't know, I guess it would be difficult, but some of the stuff I would imagine could serve multiple towns and being a regionalized asset.
We did look at that. The problem where that would lie is that if we're going to get hit with an emergency, so isn't Rocky Hill and Weathersfield. We've done a lot of research trying to see if CERT could be a regional team, but ultimately, when an emergency hits our area, the town of Newington CERT is going to be primarily responsible for Newington, and same thing in Weathersfield and Rocky Hill. So if we buy combined equipment, there's going to be an issue where, hey, we all need it at the same time.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Page?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just speaking of other towns, if you have it, I'd like to see the information. If you haven't, if you could survey, you brought Rocky Hill, Berlin, Weathersfield, and so forth, and see what are their standards for requirements for emergency vehicles and their application. And, are there best practices according to the national organization or local that governs CERT and resources, both human and in this case, vehicles? And how are we comparing to those standards as well as best practices as exercised in those towns? Maybe that would give us some benchmarks too.
Okay.
Thanks.
Counselor Menke?
I just had a question on, I guess, to let everybody know, I'm okay with sort of 1, I guess, so I would give us that. I'm not sure we need 2. And 3, Tahoe, is there something we can get that's a little bit less expensive? I spent the last 4 days driving around in a Tahoe, and it's a nice car, but is there something we can get that's less expensive just to drive around town?
We can look at it. The reason the Tahoe was selected, PD just obviously went to the Tahoes, and with the state bid, it's actually significantly cheaper. So it's not a retail price. So the Tahoe, minus all the lighting and any sort of additional equipment, is about $30,000 on state bid.
Okay.
So it's don't think you're paying the retail price that.
No, I obviously, when I look at that price, that's not what the Tahoe I rode around in cost, because mine was a lot more expensive. It was a rental, so it wasn't, I didn't own it, but would a, I don't even know what another car, would a Highlander be more cost effective? Are they on state bids, or is that through the Tahoe?
I would have to look, and I would consult Highway. Again, it was kind of just trying to stay with, one vehicle that PD's going to them. So for having extra parts and equipment and things like that.
That makes sense too, but I just like to see the comparison just for the sick
Sure.
person.
Bad weather capacity.
And bad weather capacity. I think
Yeah.
it's certainly got to be something that suits our needs. I don't want to get a minivan, yeah, or a Hyundai or
Hey,
whatever.
don't knock a minivan.
We want to get something that'll work. We don't get, or that has space. I assume you have equipment to put in there, so you have to have some space. You can't get a two-door convertible.
Right.
That's not gonna work. You need the space too. I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions, counselors? All right, I don't see any more. So thank you, DJ, that you've given us a lot to think about for sure.
Thank you.
I think, so before we wrap up,
Oh.
I think, DJ, you might want to address, we're unique having CERT in our town. We've actually had us called into other towns for assistance, such as the instance you referenced earlier for Rocky Hill opening their shelter. So it may be hard to do that comparison. See what we can put together for at least emergency management in general.
And to that point, as was mentioned by others, and again, maybe because if an emergency hits, it'll hit several towns, but to your point, James, would that mean some cost sharing possibly if others are, benefiting? Would that be something we could look to other towns too? I don't know, that maybe that's not practical, but to your point,
No,
if it's happening.
we've done it for basic items like the boom mower between Parks and Recreation with ourselves and Rocky Hill, if I remember correctly. So there are instances where it can be done. It's just, you hope that you're not the only one getting hit with that emergency.
No, right.
That's the one piece.
Right. Thanks.
All right, I think we're all set. Thank you, DJ.
All right, thank you.
Next item this evening is to consider disbanding inactive committees. And you'll see in the memo, there are 4 listed, specifically the Blight Ordinance Subcommittee, which completed its assigned action in 2016. And no additional meetings have taken place since then. And I think, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that subcommittee was created was simply for the creation of the ordinance or the revamping of it at the time.
Correct.
So any additional meetings that would need to happen on Blight, we'd have to create a new committee essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, if I remember correctly, you should have that
It's in the
referencing.
packet.
Yep.
Yep.
And then Town Hall Renovations Public Building Committee held their last meeting in July of 2021. The project has been completed with any outstanding issues being addressed through the Facilities Department.
Yeah, there was a draft final report that was completed while Mr. Barron was here, but we do have additional items that we are still working on. The facilities director as well as the chairman have been conversing back and forth regarding that. We will need to determine whether or not we are ready to move forward with this to close that one out, or if we will be needing to look at an errors and omissions issue based upon some drainage problems that we're having as part of the final project. So while it's on here as notification, it may still take a little while for us to get to that point.
Okay. And then the 150th Anniversary Steering Committee completed their work for the town anniversary. Last meeting was held in March of 2023 to disperse the remaining funds from fundraising efforts. The chairperson is currently working on the final report.
I did touch base with her. She indicated now that school's wrapped up, she is working on that report a little bit more diligently. So hopefully we'll have that within the next month to be able to move forward to at least clean up 1 or 2 of these as we move through the list and see what else we can get rid of.
All right. And then the School Code Compliance Committee last met in March of 2021. The committee had been tasked with several different projects since its creation in 2010. This was one that we discussed during budget, I believe, correct, with the Board of Education?
You'll notice it's been through many iterations, the Clemery artificial turf field, the Newington School Music Wing expansion, the tennis court renovations, the STEM Academy. So it's been through multiple iterations over its time, and it's definitely time to sort of close that one out now that we have the PMBC in place. Any of those projects would now go through it.
So ultimately, all of these, the Public Building Committee would have to do a final report. The 150th has to do one because of the funding piece.
Correct.
And in terms of school code compliance, how would that be wrapped up? I think Lou Giacomowitz has to.
Lou has
with
to
that.
give us a final report on that because that is a permanent, public building committee as well. So that,
Okay.
and that one's going to be a little bit more involved. I'm not quite sure how long that will take him to go back through to 2010 to pull together all of the different projects that got added on versus creating an individual committee for each project.
So in terms of taking action on this, we're putting it on tonight as an informational item.
Correct.
Would we necessarily be taking action at our next meeting, or would this just be kind of?
We could keep it on as a continuing item,
Okay.
something we discussed in leadership slightly.
Mhm.
We could take care of the blight ordinance subcommittee at the next meeting easily. As we go through the list, we may find that there are other ones which really have not met and don't really meet at all.
Right.
And we can sort of add them into this with the
Okay.
following meeting being the action point. So it's a good piece to keep on there, and I'd love to get an 80-page report out of the way.
Counselor Menke?
Yeah, so I see the first one on the list is the Columbia Lemire Artificial Turf Field Project Building Committee. We're already replacing the turf, so I assume the committee should easily be expanded,
Yeah,
right? Because
Well,
we haven't.
this
we're-
one
we're
is
already
act-
the second of replacing it, so.
this school code compliance one is actually used to be this, and it's changed iterations. So that one's actually under that same clause. Don't
So all
ask
of
me
these
why.
First ones that are listed. in
All
our-
these first couple, until you get to the blight ordinance subcommittee, were all part of, at least in my reporting from the former town clerk, the school code compliance is what it all listed under. So it's a very unusual thing. That's why I cringe every time I have to look back at ones that are multiple stages versus one project, one committee,
Right.
very specific.
I think it's important these committees that are no longer being used or of service to us, we should disband as quickly as possible so those people can get back in the pool of other people.
Yeah.
Can be used on other committees. Correct. And we're all appointed as liaisons to committees that don't even meet, which seems ludicrous to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. So the School Code Compliance Committee, just to clarify, I think of school code as being the purview and responsibility of the Board of Ed, but we formed that committee because we own the buildings.
Yes.
Yeah, we form it, but it's run by, Lou is the one that oversees that one, and during our budget, I know there were some funds left in that account, but Lou had reported to us that there was, I think, a sink project left that they were working on at the high school, which was the money had already been allocated. So he had indicated during budget that the remaining funds in that account could be utilized for other purposes once they closed it out. So the intent during budget was to close it out and then move those funds. And I'd have to look back at my notes where we were thinking of using it to.
No, I don't know, but
Okay.
I was on the, if I can jump ahead, I was in that committee that we were formed for a specific project, not for compliance ongoing. There was one specific project that we completed. I haven't sat in that committee for 2 terms now.
At least.
So we haven't met forever. But that project had been completed, so we were done with it's not for ongoing code compliance, it was for that specific.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor Draco?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm glad that you explained about the blight ordinance subcommittee, because I do know that there's been significant talk both in TPZ and in our council chambers regarding blight is becoming an issue. So by dissolving this committee certainly doesn't mean that, blight is gone. This was simply to get the ordinance in place, but I do feel that within the next coming months or so, particularly, I think the new town manager seemed to have been very interested in blight and blight control, that another type of committee will be or should be formed, once he gets on board, so that we can take a better look at what's going on in town and how to address it.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor Nagel?
Having served on several of these committees, not all of them, since some of them were their creation, the Blight Ordinance Committee was assigned to revise regulations to fit the needs of the town and the community and whatever, for a variety of reasons, but also meant to go over to supposedly initially relieve the burden of the council in looking at specific recommendations and whatever. So every blight request would not come directly to the town. So with a new town manager coming over, redoing it in whatever, in one form or another, seems to be appropriate for that. I can see the reason for town hall renovations running its course, and that too, as well as the 150th anniversary. School code compliance was kind of when I first was assigned to it and was the chair for a while there, it was kind of like a cobra. It was like a hybrid between the Board of Ed and the town council, and there became kind of a lap over of one to the other as to responsibilities, but it seemed to work out well for what its needs were at the particular time. I know we have another committee that's not listed on here where it seemed just to be a tug of war, which I won't get into for a variety of reasons, probably should in the future be on this list too, since it doesn't seem to have served a purpose, but maybe our new town manager might see different, or see a reinvention of something that might work, like I was intimating about blight. So just a few comments and background information.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll just continue this on to the next agenda and we'll take action as appropriate as those final reports come in. Yep. Thank you. Next item this evening is written and oral communications from the town manager, and this will be Mr. Kropinski's last report in this regard.
So I made some notes. Okay, everybody got dinner? 3 minutes. Hold on, let me start it. All right, so yeah, the last 7 months has been tiring, exhilarating, and strangely enough, fun. You know, I walked in and one of the biggest things was the union representation and the issues we were having with them. So during the last 7 months, we saw the improved relationship between that leadership and the town. We've seen changes in how the department is viewed, how the town is viewed by the union itself. I've gotten to know the union leadership, at least the town side of it. The other side of it for ASME has changed 4 times now. That's taken a little bit of getting used to. Coming in, we knew already that we were missing a town manager, missing a town planner, missing a town engineer, missing an ACO. Happy to say that we're finishing all of those right now. So town planner's been on board, town engineer's been on board, we've met. Deputy assessor, we've held interviews on, we've made our offer to. We're working on the background check on that right now. Clinical social worker, interviews have been completed, background check is in progress. Our ACO, that one's been completed for interviews. I will be meeting with the tentative candidate on Thursday. Assistant building official, we have a tentative candidate on that one as well. We'll hope to be meeting with that person shortly. We completed the wage reopener for ASME. Let's see, what else did we have? Of course, the biggest thing, and I know Janet is not on anymore, but the biggest thing was budget. And I can't thank her enough for how much she assisted in walking through that entire process. While I've been on it from a department head, being on it as the person who gets to bring that forward was a very different experience. But it was eye-opening. It really was. I've been on it on the council side, so I know what you guys go through. So I had a little bit of an understanding to it, but being there saying, yeah, you're not getting that, you are getting that. It's a very unusual feeling. So I definitely thank her and her staff for everything that they got done during that. And I guess the bigger one would be thanking the council. Last 7 months, you guys have all been great to work with. I've been working with you prior, but in a very different role. But everybody has been very helpful. You know, I've tried to be as responsive as possible, even on the weekends.
At all hours, yeah.
So I just want to thank all of you for the time that I had in the position. I'm looking forward to working with Tom when he comes on board, if he calls me. You know, it's coming up faster than I thought it would. Can't believe it's the end of June already. He'll be starting as of Saturday, July 1st, being his first office day on the 3rd and going into a vacation day for the holiday, but that's okay. And then just the last one, I just want to thank all the town staff, because they really made it much easier to do everything that we needed to get done. I didn't have to worry about it. Anytime that there was a question I had, I knew who I could reach out to, and I knew I could get that information and get it to where it needed to be. So that's my final report.
Let's give it up for the man.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, you're a consummate professional and a gentleman and so knowledgeable. And I know I couldn't do this job without your support, to say nothing of you helping me get on my computer. But
That's transitioned now.
right. Thank you, and thank you. And just one little side business, but I know others want to say what they want to say to you is, thank you for the following up on those flags on Market Square and on Main Street. Also, at some point, can we look into freshening our town sign on our town green? I don't know if that was a state monies that put that beautiful sign for our town, or if that was Park and Rec. It's just, it's kind of run down and on the cusp of our 150th, or on the back end of our 150th. It may be something we could look into, and whether a refresh paint or how to dress it up.
While you addressed it with me, I can say the superintendent of parks is still on the meeting, so I know he heard that as well. So we can have that discussion in the
But
morning.
those are just petty things compared to thanking you, and appreciate you very much, James. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Rada?
Yes, thank you for everything. As you know, my first term on the council, not quite knowing what to expect, you certainly helped make this a smooth entry, a smooth landing. You've done your work as always, excuse me, with grace, proficiency. You're on top of things. I know when I emailed you, you know, especially even nitpicky, crazy things. And when, as Mitch said, when our computers don't work and we're trying to get on because we want to start the meeting.
No, it's us not working.
Yeah, it just, you know, I mean, you've got these magic fingers and it's like, I think you walk by it and all of a sudden, you know.
My staff says the same thing. This is doing this to me all the time. I walk up, oh, of course it doesn't do it now.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's scared.
It's the mechanic in you.
I'm glad that you are going to continue with us and we can continue to bother you and continue to work with you. So I'm looking forward to that.
Counselor Mankey?
I would just add my thanks, James, for the last months. I don't know how we would survive without someone coming in who already knew the process, already knew the players, and already knew the system. I've contacted you many times over the last couple of months, and I've always found you professional, but I've also found you responsive. I mean, you get back to me right away. Sometimes before I even hang up the phone, leaving a message, you're calling me back. I appreciate that, and I think the town owes you a debt of gratitude for the work you've done to get us from December to now. I think we've made some. It would be easy to say that we just kind of treaded water for those months, but we didn't. We kept moving. We kept swimming, and I think that's important. And it only happened because you came on and you kept us moving forward. You could have just said, "Well, we're going to just tread water for the last couple of months," but you didn't. You kept us moving, so I appreciate that.
Deputy Mayor Badrega?
I think one of the most amazing things is you came into this position assuming the important role of the town manager, but yet you really didn't have the expertise of support staff under you in terms of the vacancies that we had. We had the town planner, the engineer, the ACO, and whatever. So coming in as quite like a newbie, you didn't have that support system under you necessarily that maybe would have made it a little easier, but as Tim said, the transition was smooth. And I think a lot of that has to do because when you were town clerk, you went above and beyond anyways. I mean, you, as town clerk, you were absorbing everything, did more than your share of what your responsibilities were, whatever. So you had a lot of this knowledge innately from the fact that you went over and above beyond what you were supposed to be doing anyways. So you were able to step into your role. And I know it was difficult, but but you were able to do it. And I know that's the type of person you are. And as you assume the role, back with the town and doing your town clerk job, you're still gonna be aware and involved and just, I hope you stay here forever and ever and ever, but I think what you learned is just gonna be, so valuable. Not only did the town benefit, but I hope you feel that you benefited as well.
Counselor Nagle?
Thank you, James, for all that you have done over the last 7 months. Has it been that long? And as previous people have said, it fit in and smoothly made the transition that was a difficult one for us to adjust to in terms of town manager search and whatever, and for fulfilling and consistently going above and beyond to provide service for us and the town, more importantly. And we're always there. I mean, even this afternoon, I had a long chat with you about some problems which we resolved, including tonight. And I know you will be there in the future. And we appreciate your commitment, your dedication to the town of Newington, and your expertise and all the skills that you have and that you've developed over the past several months. And this isn't goodbye, of course. It's to be continued. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Ernest?
Thank you. Thank you, James. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the town clerk's office many times.
I know you're looking forward to it.
I am, I really am. You have just been so accommodating and you're always available for us, and you did not skip a beat from the day that you took over until now. You kept this town moving forward, and I'm appreciative for it, and I'm sure everybody in the town is appreciative. And I'm glad that you had the knowledge by attending previous leadership meetings, so you knew, how the council worked and everything. And I think that was an advantage to you taking over the position for the 7 months. But next chapter, back to the town clerk's office. And I know you're going to be a good right-hand person for Tom to get him through this transition. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Camillo?
Thank you, James. And I still don't know how you don't have any gray hair, so.
I'm not allowed to.
A little.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, and I know we're going to cross paths a lot in the future, so.
James, my turn. There's no amount of thanks that could equal what you really deserve, having jumped into this the way you did. I think everybody mentioned earlier that you were faced with vacancies, and I want to make sure people understand you were faced with those. You didn't cause them. People didn't run or anything. Those vacancies were there when you took over, and you did an amazing job of filling very difficult vacancies that could have been left for quite some time, and some were prior to your arrival. So I think it needs to be mentioned, the efforts that you and your staff put into making sure that those vacancies were filled, and filled with very qualified people. We've been very fortunate with who you've recruited. So you really did a wonderful job there. And you yourself mentioned the union piece, and I think you do that because you do take some pride in what you accomplished there, as you should, because you were faced with many issues that were created prior to your arrival, that could have certainly been still continuing today and causing a lot more grief. And you handled those negotiations and issues with grace and courtesy, and somehow managed to bring parties together that some of us weren't sure would ever come together on issues. So your ability to bring people together and connect like that really did not go unnoticed. You did an amazing job for us in so many ways. And somehow, as everyone mentioned, town business didn't skip a beat. You jumped in, and somehow we kept moving. And I think you said it very well, Councilor Menke. We didn't just tread water, we kept moving. And that really is because of you and your leadership. And we have extremely qualified department heads and staff in general, and you were able to rely on those folks, but they only are able to do what their leadership helps them do, and you were their leadership for those 7 months. So thank you for making sure that we continued in the right direction. I would have brought you flowers, but I know you hate them, so. But thank you. There, like I said, there's no amount of thanks that I could say. You were, I mean, phone calls that you took like this. I mean, I think there was one morning I woke you up because you were on a day off. I didn't remember. And you still answered the call. I was like, why are you answering? You know, hit snooze. But yeah, and you kept saying that to me over and over whenever I needed something. It's a 24-hour job. Don't worry about it. But your availability to all of us and accessibility really made the transition seamless. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
It was my pleasure.
And I'm really glad. I'm hoping you're still sitting in that seat as our town clerk and council clerk moving forward.
Have
So,
that conversation with Tom, see
all
what he's
right.
doing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you one last thing because I have to give the shout out to the other people. So that's my family
Yes.
that put up with this for the last 7 months and longer than that.
Yes.
Which is a net flowers.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, they probably need the flowers more than I do. But no, they, going into it, my wife and I talked about it for a little bit and, the question was, well, am I gonna see you anymore? I said, probably no more than you do now.
Yeah, right.
And that was pretty much true. But, she knew that it was an important role and it was a benefit for me. And the support was there to make sure that I could do what I needed to do for the town to make sure nothing skipped a beat. So.
Under labor law, can we order a vacation?
I don't think we have the authority to do that, but we can suggest it strongly.
Yeah, from what I understand, Joe can lock out doors.
There you go. All right, we'll get on that. Well, thank you, truly. All right, we'll continue now with council liaison committee reports. Anyone? Moving on. Next item is public participation. Any member of the public, either in person or on Zoom, can participate. If you are on Zoom, just raise your hand in the participants window. Let us know you want to be acknowledged. And if you're in the room, you're welcome to come forward. And right now we have no attendees on the Zoom call, so. What's happened?
Tallard. Gail, you didn't touch on this, and I was just curious if there was any update on the Rocket Street and Kitts Lane, all those trees that Sitco had cut down. Did you hear any? Did you hear anything from Sitco on that? I was just curious. No?
You can respond to remarks by counselors if you want at the end.
I'm not supposed to.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'm throwing all these questions at you. Okay, that's all. And if and when, could you please give the council and the citizenry of the town of Newington a update? I know that, I remember you saying something that some people were complaining about the lighting there because of the highway, and I'm sure that those trees, because I counted 24 of the stumps were cut down. And I'm not an environmental tree hugging liberal, but I believe in respecting the environment that God gave us, this beautiful planet. And I mentioned that last time. And if you could find out and just keep us posted on that, because also one other thing too, I'm sure that the people in that area, because of those trees too, the lighting also, I'm sure it was a buffer for sound. I know where I live, somebody's driving a motorcycle at 12 o'clock at night on the Berlin Turnpike. I know exactly where he is or she. You can just hear it. And I'm sure that they suffer a buffer noise from the all those trees being cut down. Like I said, I counted 24 stumps and I just feel bad for them. And because being a baby boomer, no offense, I really don't trust big corporations. Going back to the days of John D. Rockefeller, who was the first billionaire in the United States. He controlled 9% of all the oil and oil refineries in the United States. And 1880 is a long time ago to be a billionaire, be the first billionaire in the United States. So I'm just a little skeptical of big business in general. Like I said, being a baby boomer. And I just hope you keep us posted on that. We could hold Sitco accountable for what they did and just what's going forward. And that's all, just like the citizenry, and especially Rocket Street and Kitts Lane, I'm sure they would appreciate an update on that corner there, because salt levels, and it's just, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, next item is remarks by counselors.
Now that I could speak to Mr. Towler, no, yeah, I don't have an update, but I will follow up.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And that neighborhood actually, it's zoned, for business, so you get, but there's an awful lot of houses there too, and I was quite surprised actually when I saw
I realize it's their property, they have a right to do what they want with it. And my only concern is like, if it's all right, Mayor. And I would just think, I hope something would be in the town charter where it was a company. Okay, if I own the property, if I want to cut down those trees, that's my business. But being that they pay taxes and they're making money, and that Citgo makes a lot of money. They're very busy over there at that Citgo station. And so they're doing very well. I don't see many oil companies going under in this day and age. And I just don't trust I don't know what they're gonna do there, but keeping us informed, and if you could, I don't know, you guys could contact them and see what maybe their future plans are for the future of that property. And it would have been nice if they would have told us, or for example, if for every tree that they cut down, there's something in the chart where they have to plant a tree somewhere else in the town at our designated location. I don't know if that's possible, but just to kind of make the people like, okay, you're gonna cut down a tree, you're paying taxes, you're making a lot of money, you get it, but they're making a profit. I don't see Citgo closing anytime soon. That somewhere in the town that we designate that they plant a tree for every tree that they cut down if it's a business. It's my property. Yeah, if I want to cut down the trees, there's nothing anybody can do about it. But they're a business and they're making money in the town, and they're very busy. Every time I go there, there's cars there. So I just want to hold them accountable. That's all. Okay, folks.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Counselor Camillo?
The company that owns that property is out of Long Island and New Jersey now. It used to be New Britain Candy and Lincoln Oil. So their office is in Berlin. You can look it up.
Connecticut.
Right in Berlin, yeah. Okay, and for what they pay on taxes on that property, they can do whatever they want to do. I mean, it's probably $70,000 a year is probably where they're at for taxes.
Okay.
20,000. 70,000.
This gas station up on Fen Road's about 50 to 5,000 right now. So
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of money. You have a lot of equipment there, and they're probably going to expand somehow, or who knows? But it's their choice. They're cleaning it up because who knows what was living in there.
It's underground.
Right.
Yeah.
Cars.
Yeah. I remember when they built the place, the old trucks that were still in there, and I, remember going through there, and it's like, wow, I couldn't believe what they had in the ground. So.
All right, we'll do our best to follow up on that.
Thank you very much.
Next item is motion to adjourn. Who would like
Move
to do that?
adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Mankey, seconded by Counselor Page. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 8:56 PM. Thank you, everyone.